Peace world, what is good? This Saturday, we see the return of Gary Russell Jr. after an almost 2-year layoff. Okay? Almost a 2-year layoff since his last fight, as he's going in against the hard-hitting Magsayo. Again, that's going to be taking place live on Showtime. I'm not going to really drag this out too long, man. Look, I have been very adamant that, when fighters are inactive for that long, a lot of times, and this is why I'm interested to see how Keith Thurman looks, inactivity is, especially this long, okay? Like 6 months to a year, like, okay, you kind of like can, 2 years, for me personally, okay, that's usually a cautionary red flag that always floats around my head when I think about somebody who's inactive going in against a guy who is active that has a lot to gain. Okay, and I think that is really the story of this fight. I rate Gary Russell high. I've always rated Gary Russell high. The biggest issue I've had with him is that since 2015, man, he's fought once a year. And I think at some point, that is going to play a big part in one of his fights. And the fact that now he's at a 2-year inactivity. And listen, Magsayo, this kid could punch, man. Again, Gary Russell's more skilled. He is. But let's not act like Gary Russell is has been the most elusive guy in the last couple of years. I personally feel Gary Russell's inactivity, and I'm not saying like he's going to lose this fight, but I do have a strong feeling his inactivity might show up in this fight. And I bring up the Nambiar fight. I bring up even the Jojo Diaz fight. He was getting hit in those fights, guys. Gary Russell is at point. There's stuff he does that I'm like, man, if this guy only fought more frequently, And I'm not going to get into the business side of it. And look, he's aligned with He's aligned with the advisor that, as far as I know, is he still with Heyman? Don't quote me then. I thought he still was. But, hey, he has been, for as skilled a fighter he is, he's been one of the most inactive fighters in all of boxing. Fighting once a year, the featherweight champion. He's been the WBC featherweight champion, guys, for the better part of 5 years. 5 years. And he has the biggest names he's fought are, however you rate Jojo Diaz's name. He just fought Devin Haney, right? But that's pretty much, and Lomachenko. Those are the two names, Lomachenko and Jojo Diaz. But his inactivity, man, it can't be ignored. And I've been in some of these clubhouse chats, and I think you kind of hear some of the same sentiments. Like, he's really good. Gary Russell is very, fast, very skilled. Comes from a boxing family, but it's crazy how some of the other members in his family are fighting more often than he is. So, and then also adding, his father, having health issues, and, we're hearing, Gary Russell's training himself. Let me tell y'all something, man. This is a hard fight for me to predict. Only because on paper, Gary Russell's a more skilled guy, but I can't ignore his inactivity against a dude in Magsayo who's very busy and can crack. And I'm bringing the other examples of other fights Gary Russell's been in the last couple of years, where you're starting to see the elusiveness kind of So, this, man, I think Magsayo is somebody who, he doesn't have the most regard for defense, but again, he's a very busy dude. And I'm wondering if Gary Russell, that inactivity, is going to help or hurt him. But I can't help but think it's going to be more of a detriment than a positive, only because we've seen him inactive already. And like I said, we've already seen how he's looked in his past 2 fights. He's won them. But removing the Kiko Martinez fight, but when you look at the Nambiar fight and you look at the Jojo Diaz fight, And mind you, I thought he was going to wipe the floor with Jojo Diaz. Didn't really happen. But again, how much of that is due to inactivity? And who wants this more? I mean, Gary Russell's talking about like, yeah, I want to fight Haney, these guys, but I'm focused on him. What a fighter should say, right? But you guys tell me, who has more to gain in this fight? There's just certain intangibles that I probably wouldn't be thinking about had he been more active. But what concerns me is that his last fight was meaning Gary Russell, his last fight was February 8th, 2020, man. This was pre-COVID. Like, to be honest with you, man, that's almost a lifetime ago based on what all of us in regular life have been going through, right? And this is why I bring up my concerns for Keith Thurman. And I'm not saying like both of these guys are gonna lose, but my whole thing, man, in boxing is you gotta stay active. And if you're fighting once every 2 years, more cases than not, it's gonna show in the ring. So let's see. Magsayo he's a hard-hitting featherweight. He's bigger than Gary Russell. He's more active than Gary Russell, and he has more to gain. Gary Russell, on the other hand, yes, is more skilled, is faster, better technique. But he's how old, right? He's going to be 34 in June. This June. Just saying, guys. So let's see. That's this Saturday live on Showtime. I'm not going to pick a winner, man, only because I really don't know. This is like the first, I want to say, man, this is the first time outside of when he fought Lomachenko. And even then I was like, man, like that's a tough fight for Lomachenko at that point. But this is the first time, like, I legitimately don't know about this fight because of all the things I've said. I'm very prone on fighters staying active, especially when you start to get into the mid-30s range, and especially when you talk about a dude that relies on the speed, the elusiveness, the technique, the skill, and also, again, he's been getting hit more frequently. And now he's arguably fighting the hardest puncher he's faced in quite a while. So that's what's on the table for this Saturday, man. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm very eager to see how Gary Russell performs, and if Magsayo can really put Gary Russell in a position where he hasn't been in. I don't think we've ever seen Gary Russell hurt. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen him hurt. And again, this kid can crack. So there's a lot of intangibles on the table, man. But I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think, man. Does Magsayo have a good chance to beat Gary Russell, or does the inactivity not matter and Gary Russell's just much better than him? That could play out. We'll see, though. This Saturday, live on Showtime, Gary Russell Jr., Mark Magsayo for the WBC Featherweight Championship. Let me know you got winning. Follow us at Guard Boxing on Instagram. Follow me at Roberto_Flags. So until next time, peace.